So I binge watched Last Chance U Basketball Season 2, and I gotta say I enjoyed it. Like many others, I've been a fan of Last Chance U since the football days, and this season had a lot of interesting storylines. Before I get into the players and the coaches, I gotta say that I'm happy that ELAC benefited from the Netflix series. They mentioned a few times throughout the season that the athletic fund expanded. You saw the team with more sponsorships, new jerseys, so I'm glad that the program got the benefit from it. The team finished with about 4 losses in the regular season, but they ultimately lost to West LA in the CCCAA tournament. It took Coach Mosley a while to find the rotations that he wanted. We heard him throughout the season saying that he couldn't find the temperament of the team. He didn't know which guys he could turn to. Once he found those guys, they got on the roll. Coach Mosley, I always liked him as a coach since season 1. He does a great job of knowing when to push players' buttons, but also keeping the treatment of his players the same. He'll yell at anybody, he'll praise anybody. I think he's done a great job of building the culture at ELAC and turning that program around. Much respect to Coach Mosley. On to Coach Rob, I'm happy that he got the head coach in Maricosta job. He had to make a lot of sacrifices to take that step. You got to just admire somebody who has a set plan and they follow through with their dreams. Wasn't even employed by ELAC. He had a different job as a counselor online, I believe. And then when the pandemic first hit, he was out of a job, so he had to sell masks in order to have income. Just a guy who has never given up on his dreams, and you got to respect that. Much respect to Coach Rob. On to Coach Ken. Now, his story and background was highlighted in season 1, but to me it seems like Coach Ken always knows what to say and when to say it. He has a great rapport with the players. For example, if a player is going off in the locker room, they're angry, Coach Ken will come in and know exactly what to say to calm them down, and I think that just shows a great player-coach relationship. Now on to the players who were highlighted throughout the season. First up, BP, who by the way looks like a mix of Kevin Knox and Karl Anthony Towns. Before ELAC, he was at the University of Washington, LSU. He had a tough upbringing, really had to grow up fast as a young kid. On the court, we saw his ups and downs, but at 7 feet, we really saw how dominant he can be when motivated and when he stay positive. Now he's at a D1, Cal Poly. We'll see what he does this season. Next up, there's a returner from season 1. You know, throughout the season, we really saw Coach Mosley try to push him to be that leader because he already knows what it takes. Really athletic, one of the team's top scorers. This season, they dug into his off-the-court life. Fatherhood, he became a father at a young age. We heard him talking about how he wanted to provide for his son. He had a lot of question marks coming up. He didn't know if he'll be close to his son the next season. I can only imagine the added stress that has on a person when they have a kid, someone who was counting on them. Dez is currently at a D2, Minnesota Crookston. We'll see what he does this season. Next up, DC. Now DC was in Coach Mosley's doghouse for a while. He has that personality where he's very confident but can come off as arrogant to some people. We saw him go back and forth with Coach Mosley a lot, but when DC got on that court, he backed up what he was talking. Definitely one of the best players on the team skill wise, and at time looked like the best player on the team, if not the court. Now DC probably didn't get the high major offers that he was looking for. He is returning back to ELAC for another season. Next up, Shamar. He had a lot of hype in middle school. He was dunking in the 6th grade. I believe he dropped 53 points once. People around him called him the next LeBron James. He won 2 state championships in high school, Team USA. But this is another case of a tough upbringing. I believe he moved from his home in middle school to pursue this NBA dream. Hasn't really had stability throughout his life. No, he mentioned that people pretty much used him up until they couldn't use him anymore, or when he didn't have any value to them. And the reason why he's not playing at a high major D1 is because he didn't have the grades. You can just tell throughout the season, trust issues. Now he is very talented, didn't get the amount of playing time that he hoped for. You know, he mentioned a couple of times like, why would I stay at ELAC and average 5 points when I can go to another JUCO and average 30? That was his mindset. I really thought he was leaving, but as we saw at the end, he has returned to ELAC. Next up, Damani, the heart and soul of the team. And we didn't even know that Damani was going to play that season because he had a heart problem the first day of practice. But once he came back, he was vocal. He did all the dirty work. He wasn't the most talented player, wasn't the most athletic, but he did everything that the coach wanted him to do. We kind of saw him get away from his game in the tournament against West LA, but Damani laid it all out on the line throughout the entire season, man. Next up, Josh, high energy big man, blocking shots, rebounding. Now Josh spoke about how he had autism, and that isn't the easiest thing to bring up. And even Coach Mosley had no clue that Josh was autistic until another coach told him, and he had to adjust his coaching style. To me, that's a sign of a great coach. Josh is currently at Grambling State, wishing the best for him. And I know Rail wasn't highlighted throughout the season, but let's talk about his game. He had a throwback game. He was hitting all elbow jumpers, baseline jumpers, fades. And we saw at the end, Coach Mosley said he's done with coaching on TV. So this is probably the last season that Last Chance U covers ELAC. It kind of alluded to the next school that they'll be covering, West LA, the team that ELAC lost to in the tournament. So it looks like we'll see what life is about over there at West LA with head coach Anthony Truck Jones. In the comments, let me know your thoughts of season 2 of Last Chance U basketball.